That was aggressive. Hey guys, welcome back to the Elevate podcast. My name's Em. If you don't know, now you know. This is going to be your weekly little tidbit of health, wellness, fitnessy, lifestyle shit. So let's chat about it. How are you guys? How was your week? Couple life updates. My car is back. I know in last week's episode I was talking about the fact that my dad was bringing my car back. He brought it back. Quite literally nothing was wrong with it. They think that there was just ice built up on the car and that it needed to thaw. So that was fun, but now my car's back so we can go places. How was your guys' week? What did we talk about last week? Food. Well, not food. Gut health. Let me know. I had a couple people DM me saying that they liked the vibe of last week's episode, so I'm hopeful that a lot of you liked it. It's not going to be every episode like that. Like even today, it's not that in depth. We're not going like super education heavy, or not even, that's not the right word. We're not going super information heavy in the sense of like, hey, you need to take notes to understand what this episode's about. We're not doing that every episode. I think it'll be kind of rare, but when I have a little like, hey, I really want to talk about this one random topic and do a deep dive on it, we'll do it like that. So thank you for people who said that they liked that episode because I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun recording it. I did realize after I posted it, it's not the most well edited. I was editing it Wednesday night until like 9 p.m. and it had to go up Thursday morning. So it's messy, but that's okay because I still really liked the episode. We're just gonna jump right into today's episode. I am recording 2 episodes today, so I'm recording this week's and then also next week's because my staff Christmas party is this weekend. When you're listening to this, it's this coming weekend. So I'm probably not gonna be coherent to record Saturday or Sunday. So we're recording 2 today. So if I look the same in the next 2 episodes, apologies, but we've got Nalani, we've got some water, and let's talk about it. Okay, so if we're being entirely honest, I am a couple weeks late to talking about this, but for a long time I didn't know if I was going to touch on it because I didn't know how I felt about, oh yeah, we're talking about dopamine menus. I didn't say that, but for a couple weeks I didn't know how I felt about the concept of dopamine menus. I didn't know if it was something that I wanted to talk about, but I do think it's important, and even if something isn't necessarily beneficial in my life, which I'm not saying these aren't, I've definitely been working on using these more in my life, but for a long time I was like, I don't think that's going to be helpful for me. Even if it's not helpful for me, I think it's also still important to talk about it for other people, give other people the information. So we're going to just kind of talk about the concept of dopamine menus, which are essentially like a tool designed to help individuals optimize their focus, motivation, and just your well-being in general. Why they're popular, why they've been gaining popularity lately, how to make one, and the benefits of using one kind of in your everyday life. A dopamine menu is essentially a personalized list of activities or rewards that stimulate the brain's dopamine system. Remember, dopamine, key neurotransmitter linked to your motivation, pleasure, and rewards in your life. Say like scrolling on social media, a lot of times your brain associates scrolling on social media, eating certain foods, doing certain activities as like, here's a reward. Here's an activity that I'm doing as a reward for other things that I'm doing in my life. Dopamine menus play into that concept and help you create motivational skills using that. The key is to consciously choose activities that activate your dopamine in a positive way because you can negatively activate dopamine. We're seeing that a lot with people having, I don't want to say addictions to dopamine, but having a codependency on the dopamine that we're receiving from everyday things. So sitting on your phone for 5 hours, like if your screen time is 5+ hours or like 3+ hours, your brain is no longer getting that same sense of dopamine as it would if your screen time was 30 minutes and you used your time scrolling on social media as like, here's my end of the day, like calm down before I go to sleep. Essentially, dopamine menus, you're going to think of it as like a menu, quite literally like appetizer, entree, dessert, a menu of small, healthy, and enjoyable activities that offer an immediate reward or a sense of accomplishment. Again, we kind of talked about dopamine and ADHD in last week. I say talked about it. We touched on the relationship between ADHD and dopamine in last week's episode. This is a heavy one. A lot of people who have ADHD or a lot of people who specialize or work in the industry of helping people with ADHD promote the use of dopamine menus because it allows ADHD, you have essentially a dopamine deficiency. So that's why like dopamine detoxes and stuff are really, really difficult for people with ADHD because your brain, you lose any sense of motivation and any sense of like willingness to do anything because of that lack of dopamine. Dopamine is a key player in your brain's reward system. It helps regulate your mood and your focus, feeling of pleasure, and it plays a huge role in your motivation in day-to-day life. The dopamine system is activated by both pleasurable activities and goals achieved. People with ADHD, or just people who have dopamine deficiencies or a difficult relationship with their dopamine receptors, thrive with to-do lists, thrive with physical calendars, stuff that they can scratch off. Here's my completed list of what I did today. When we do something that releases dopamine, we feel motivated to repeat it, which is why it's often called the motivation molecule. There's a couple different reasons why people might use dopamine menus in their life. One big one can be to fight burnout and to combat low motivation. In today's very fast-paced and often overwhelming world, many people struggle with motivation, finding motivation in day-to-day life, maintaining that motivation, especially when they're faced with a long-term goal or a very monotonous task. A dopamine menu essentially allows you to engage in immediate rewards that fuel your productivity through your day and through your week. They're also really helpful in counteracting instant gratification. Have we done an episode about instant gratification? Maybe, I don't remember. With constant access to social media, video games, and other instant gratification activities, people are learning to balance those instant gratification activities with healthier and more productive dopamine releasing options to maintain focus. I think we're seeing, not even with just my generation or people younger than me, but as well as people older than me, people have lost their ability to do nothing. People have lost their ability to maintain focus in kind of like boring activities and hobbies. Dopamine menus can be helpful in the act of relearning how to be okay with being bored, if that makes sense. It can also help improve your time management. A dopamine menu can also help in balancing work and leisure. By adding rewards and enjoyable tasks to your menu, it can create incentives for getting through more demanding or less enjoyable tasks first. I think people are finally starting to realize the long-term effects of social media exposure and just like the constant consumption of content, because I saw TikTok a couple weeks ago. Somebody was saying how nobody has hobbies anymore because it's really difficult to sit and just be with yourself. Say with the coloring, you know, the alcohol markers on TikTok, my sister bought some, I love them, but I think that was a really easy and attainable hobby, whatever you want to call it, for a lot of people. But it was also making people realize, like, wow, I really don't necessarily enjoy sitting alone with my thoughts and coloring for 2 hours or however long. I think we're going to start seeing that more and more as people realize, hey, the amount of time that you're spending in front of a screen, whether that's your TV, computer, phone, whatever, does actually have long-term impacts on your ability to self-entertain yourself. People make fun of toddlers who get sat in front of an iPad and suddenly don't know how to like independent play and don't have the ability to entertain themselves. But we're not just seeing that in toddlers. We are seeing that in grown adults who no longer have the ability to sit and just be with themselves, sit with themselves and do a hobby, not have this constant stream of content and constant stream of like stimulation in their life. And that's scary because you obviously don't want that. And it's also like growing proof of how your dopamine receptors essentially can deteriorate because of your constant use of social media and other forms of content consumption. And that's scary. So instead of doing that, make a dopamine menu. And if you don't know how to, a couple different steps on how you can start. Obviously, this is something that can be really, really personalized, and these are the steps that I'm giving you. These are not the steps that you have to follow. If something else works for you, do something else, and that's fine. Step number 1, identify low pressure, enjoyable activities that you can do essentially every day. Write down a list of activities that make you feel good, but that aren't overwhelming for you, whether that's physically or mentally. These can include things like physical activities such as a walk or stretching, yoga, dancing, a 5-minute workout, whatever physical activity fits into your life and schedule. Creative activities such as drawing, journaling, playing an instrument if you have an instrument. Sensory activities like, I'm trying to think of good sensory activity, taking a bath. Sensory feeling, like the sensory input of having hot water, drinking a warm beverage, listening to music. Social activities are also a big one. Calling a friend, chatting with a family member. Virtual hangouts. I know that they're not as readily common now as they were during lockdown, but there is still a lot of online groups and stuff that do virtual hangouts. So once you have those things kind of listed, and give yourself a lot of options for each of those. I think those are kind of like the big 4, your physical, creative, sensory, and social. Have a long list of activities if you can. Obviously, sometimes you don't know, and you don't have the option to have 10 things listed under each category. List as many as you possibly can, and once you have those, prioritize your tasks and your rewards. Arrange your dopamine menu based on what feels most rewarding or easy to engage in for you mentally and physically. There's that whole thing of how many spoons you have in a day, spoon theory. However many spoons you have to do these daily activities, work around that. Some people like to work their way up to bigger rewards, while others prefer immediate small wins. For example, some like progressions of things that can go on your menu is like, okay, I finished a work task, or I finished answering 10 emails, or something productive, and then my reward for it is I get to watch 5 minutes of TikTok, or I studied for 30 minutes and then I get to go for a 10-minute walk. Also, just tailoring it to your preference. The key is personalization. Your dopamine menu should reflect your unique interests and needs. If you really love a certain type of music or a specific hobby, include those. Include activities that truly resonate with you and are truly going to make you feel motivated to do work and to do the things that you have to do, and also feel rewarded by whatever you've put on that menu. And like always, be flexible and experiment with what is on here. Keep your menu dynamic. If you notice that certain activities aren't as rewarding anymore, replace them with new ones. You can adjust things based on your energy levels. For example, you might have one version. Here's my morning menu of what I do in the morning. Here's my evening one, because you can have greatly different energy levels from the morning to the evening, and something that might be beneficial at 5 p.m. is not beneficial at 8 a.m. Another way to look at dopamine menus is like an actual menu. So you would have your appetizers, your entrees, your sides, and your desserts. Appetizers on the dopamine menu are activities that give a quick dopamine boost but are not overly time consuming. These are great for sprinkling throughout your day during small breaks without causing significant disruption. They're perfect for people who have a lot of tasks and need to carve out time for self-care. Appetizers also work well for people who tend to hyper-focus and struggle to take breaks, because you can go right back to what you were doing after a quick dopamine break. I am that type of person. I really struggle with like Pomodoro method for studying, because I never felt like an hour was enough. By the time I get to the 40 or the 50 minutes and then I get my 10-minute break, I feel like I've just finally gotten into the groove of what I'm studying, and I've gotten a good routine, like a good pattern down. So if I'm doing Pomodoro, which is rare, I do it based on a 2-hour schedule, essentially. An hour and 45 minutes of studying and then a 15-minute break, rather than 50 minutes and 10 minutes. That's just what works best for me. But the appetizers on a dopamine menu also work really well, because I can sit and study and hyper-focus on whatever I'm doing until I feel myself needing that break. And then I have my 5-minute, whatever that is, I walk downstairs, or a quick walk down the street, whatever that looks like. And then I can get right back into what I was hyper-focused on without losing that full kind of vibe that I had going. Your entrees on your menu, as the name suggests, entrees are bigger activities that consume more time and energy than the appetizers. They can help you unwind and self-regulate when you have a few hours to recharge or on an off day. They are hobbies and other activities that recharge us. So these are things that I'm not doing during study breaks. These are things that I'm doing, okay, I studied for 4 hours, or I studied this full chapter, or I got all my work done for the day, and now I'm going to take the next 3 hours and hyper-focus on whatever activity or hobby I'm wanting to do. Or, in the summer, this is things like paddleboarding for me. If on the weekends, okay, I did one full day of work, or even during the weekday, I go to work for my 8.5 hours, and then when I get home, I get to pack my stuff and I get to go paddleboard for a couple hours, or I get to go sit at the lake, or whatever that looks like. They're just bigger things. They are things that are more time consuming and deserve to have your full focus, and don't necessarily need to be sprinkled in between your other productive, quote unquote, activities. Your sides are dopamine inducing activities that are done alongside a necessary task. Sides can be essential for ADHDers, like yours truly, who struggle to focus on doing exactly one thing at a time. These are also beneficial to keep your dopamine levels up throughout the entire day, rather than waiting for them to drop before you do an activity. These can also look really different in a lot of people's lives. For me, it's snacks. If I'm studying or working, whatever it is, snacks or a beverage, like snacks or a drink. If I'm studying, I have something to chew on. I have either an energy drink or a diet pop, whatever it is. I have something that I can snack on while I'm studying to keep me focused, to keep my hands busy if I'm watching a video, whatever that looks like. That's one of my favorite ones. I know other people, even such as fidget toys and stuff. I don't know that would fully fall under this category, but I don't see why not. It's something to keep you occupied while you're also doing something productive. Finally, desserts are quick dopamine fixes that can be appropriate in small doses, but risk becoming unhealthy if not used in moderation. Like desserts. Like actual desserts, they're not bad or wrong, and many benefit from appropriate balance. It can help to set a timer to ensure that you have your desserts in appropriate moderation. This is TikTok for me. If I'm doing podcast stuff, or I'm studying for CPT, or when I'm in school, I'm studying for school. If I don't put a timer on TikTok, I will, I studied for my 2 hours. We'll go back to the Pomodoro example. I studied for my hour and 45, and I'm going to take my break. If I don't set a 15-minute timer, I will be on TikTok for the next 4 hours because I have no concept of self-control when it comes to TikTok or even YouTube and stuff like that. I do the same thing when I'm getting up in the morning or when I'm going to bed. I put essentially time limits for myself on, hey, you get 15 minutes of scrolling on your phone before we have to get up and go get ready for bed. Or I'm laying in bed waiting to get up. Here's 10 minutes that I can watch my YouTube video before I have to get up and get ready and go to the gym. Like the food, desserts are not bad for you. These typically high dopamine activities, which is TikTok for me, it's not necessarily bad, but it does need to be learned to use within moderation. And that's the importance of them. Dopamine menus can be beneficial for so many different reasons and for so many different people. A couple major ways why they're beneficial for people. A lot of people see increased motivation and productivity by including tasks you actually look forward to. A dopamine menu helps you break down the cycle of procrastination. It allows you to reward yourself in a structured way, making even boring tasks seem more manageable. It's not about fully restricting yourself from these activities and hobbies and whatever else that bring you joy, give you dopamine. It's about learning to use them in moderation and also learning to use them to your benefit. When you're deliberately choosing activities that bring joy, you're more likely to experience a boost in mood and decrease stress. It also helps to reframe the idea of work versus reward into something more enjoyable. You're seeing it more as, here's the order that they go on my menu. This is what I have to accomplish first before I get my appetizer. This is what I accomplish first before I get my entree. When you're seeing it as that, you can see a lot of mental health benefits in terms of work-life relationship. It also helps build consistency. A dopamine menu can encourage daily habits, especially if rewards are tied to small, constant actions. A dopamine menu can encourage daily habits, especially if rewards are tied to small, consistent actions. Over time, the brain starts associating productive behaviors with positive outcomes, strengthening your routine. So if your brain is no longer seeing, oh, I have to sit down and study, and I'm going to study for 5 hours, and I'm going to be horribly bored and feel so overwhelmed. Instead of seeing it like that, it's seeing it as, oh, I'm going to study for an hour, and then I get a chocolate, and then I study for another hour, and I get to go for a walk, and then I study for another hour, and I get to do a puzzle. Whatever is on your menu. You're rewiring how your brain is seeing these productive time slots in your day. You're rewiring, say you block your day out by hours, instead of your brain seeing your 8 work hours as, this is awful and boring and tiresome, it's now going to see it as, these are the steps that I have to take before I get to do the fun thing. There's a few work periods before I get the fun period, if that makes any sense at all. It can also help improve your focus. With the dopamine menu, you can alternate between work and small rewards, which can help you maintain focus over longer periods of time. The idea of a mini reward after a task can keep you from feeling mentally fatigued. Dopamine menus can be completely personalized to suit your day, energy levels, and priorities. That's the other thing. Some people have their generalized, here is every day of my week, this is what my menu looks like. And that's great. If that's what works for you, fantastic. I think it's also important for people to remember, if you've made, so that first step was to find your physical, social, creative, what was the fourth one? Whatever. And you've created enough ideas under each of those categories, you can change it up day by day. You can say, I'm going to pick these activities, and these activities. They're going in this order, and that's what my menu looks like for today, or for this weekend, or for this week. You're able to change it because it's your life. It doesn't impact or influence anybody else except for yourself. So you can change it to be whatever is helpful for you and whatever is going to be beneficial in your life on that specific day. Whether you're looking to work on a major goal or simply need a boost to get through a rough patch, it's a tool that you can adjust to your needs, which is very helpful. A couple examples of dopamine menus. These are less of the actual menu style and more of task reward. So respond to emails, 5-minute walk outside, write a report at work, 10 minutes of your favorite podcast. That's another good one. I love using podcasts for this because I like podcasts. Also, Spotify Wrapped came out. Wait, we didn't even talk about that. We'll touch on that at the end. Back to this. More work tasks. Organize your workspace. 15 minutes of a relaxing YouTube video. For self-care, You drank your full water bottle, you get to take 5 deep breaths. Not get to, you can take 5 deep breaths, whatever, but you did your meal prep for the week, enjoy a piece of dark chocolate. You meditated, take a 10-minute nap. Social and leisure activities, you called your friend, and now you watch an episode of your favorite show. You sent a positive message to somebody, and you get to do 10 minutes of stretching. Complete a work task, listen to your favorite podcast. Again, I think people are kind of misunderstanding the concept of the work and reward system that these go with. It doesn't necessarily have to be something like uber productive. I think for so long there was that era of like boss babe, overwork yourself, make your life a living hell, because if you're not constantly stressed, then you're not working hard enough. I think some people are slowly reverting back to that mentality post lockdown, and that's scary because that was not a great time for so many people. Something productive can be calling a friend. Hey, I wanted to call this person. I called them. We talked on the phone for 30 minutes. That was my productive social thing of the day. And now I get a reward for doing that. It doesn't have to be, I wrote 100 pages of an essay, or I finished an entire book. Books are also a good one for this. Read 10 pages, get a chocolate. Read 10 pages, go for a walk. Read more, people. But yeah, it doesn't have to be, and it can be at work, or if you have like side hustles that you want to do, you can have productive work tasks and then get a reward for doing those work tasks. But there is also productive and motivational things that you can do outside of work and content that also deserve to have that pleasure associated with them. Couple tips for using these effectively. Like always, start small. Begin by adding a few small activities to your menu and gradually build it up. I think it's important to have a good list of things to pick from, and then picking a couple from each of those categories to make your actual menu for the day or week. Mix it up. Combine activities that stimulate different senses or areas of life. This keeps the process fresh and engaging. I think this is also important. Sometimes the reward system of a dopamine menu can lose its benefit if you're not switching up what that reward looks like. If you're not switching up, say you want to go for a walk. Okay, I studied for X amount of time, I get a 10-minute walk. Change where you're walking. Like, change what direction you turn when you leave your front door. Change what park you walk at. Even little changes like that can make a big difference between you losing that sense of accomplishment by doing that walk. Be consistent with it. Make the dopamine menu a regular part of your daily or weekly routine for maximum benefits. I don't think you necessarily have to do it every single day. I think having structure in every single day is important, and it will be more beneficial if you do it every day. But if you just have, here's my weekly tasks that I need to accomplish, whether that all happens in 3 days or in 7 days, using the menu to have a positive reward system associated with those work tasks through that week can be really beneficial. And regularly assess how your dopamine menu is impacting your mood, motivation, and productivity. Adjust if needed. I feel like this goes for a lot of things. Take accountability in making changes and also assessing how things are working in your life when it comes to stuff like this. Just because you saw a TikTok that said, you should use a dopamine menu, it'll change your life. Made a dopamine menu, great, used it for a week, something wasn't working. It's not the person who made the TikTok's fault that your menu isn't working for you. That is on you. You need to take accountability and make the changes that are appropriate in your life and assess, reassign where things fall, how they're going to fit into your day and week. That's on you. Practice mindful reflection when it comes to assessing how the dopamine menu is impacting your life positively or negatively. Don't base your entire opinion on it based on one day. If that's not going to be the most beneficial way to do it, take a weekly recap. How did I feel this week using this menu? How did I feel this month using this menu? Give yourself a little bit of time to adjust to the setup of it and the routine of it. And then if it's not working, make changes. But if you did it for one day and you're like, I don't think this is working, this is stupid, I'm never going to do this again, did you really give yourself enough time to actually feel the impact of it? Probably not. A dopamine menu is a powerful tool that helps take control of your motivation and well-being. By consciously selecting activities that promote positive dopamine release, you can enhance productivity, maintain focus, and create a balanced or more balanced life. Experiment with building your own dopamine menu and see how it transforms the way you approach tasks, rewards, and self-care. This goes for a lot of things, but it is ultimately your responsibility to create your routine and create your habits in life. I can give you this information all you want. You can go on TikTok and you can find a million TikToks about what a dopamine menu is, how to make one, what is on other people's dopamine menu, which I actually do recommend. I love going on TikTok and just searching and watching TikToks about other people's, because it just gives me more ideas on what I can add to each of those categories for my activity and my rewards, if that makes sense. It is not their responsibility to create yours or also to make it effective in your life. Because if you're making one of these, you're sitting with yourself, you're taking an hour, making your list of all your activities, setting up how you're going to do it, and then you don't actually put that into practice, but you're still expecting it to somehow benefit you because you made it, but you're not following it, or you're not being honest with yourself about how you're following it. You can't expect that to be beneficial in your life at all. So I think it is important to understand, and this is a really good way to do it, you need to be accountable for yourself. You need to be committed to yourself, to making changes in your life, making changes in your habits, your routines, your intentions, all of these things, because otherwise you can't expect your life to change if you don't make any changes to it. I can't sit here and expect my entire life to do a 180 just because I wrote it on a piece of paper. I'm not putting any effort behind that. I'm not doing anything different, but I wrote it down. So my life is expected to change. Unfortunately, really not how that works. Not unfortunately, honestly, because what would be the benefit of your life changing if you didn't have to put the work into it? And maybe that's just me. I know it's not just me. I know there's other people that think like that. But in my head, the changes in my life would not feel as rewarding if it wasn't something that I had to put intentional effort behind. If I was just magically graced by the universe, here's everything you have ever wanted. Here's the life you have dreamed of on a silver platter. You don't have to make any efforts. You don't have to change anything personally. The universe is just gifting you this new life. Do I really want it? Does it really have that same value to me as if I had made the effort to make changes in my life and dedicate my time to myself? I don't know. In my opinion, wouldn't have the same appeal, wouldn't have the same feeling. Same thing goes for dopamine menus. If I was just magically gifted this really good sense of work and reward system in my life and I didn't have to put any effort into it, how rewarding is it, truly? So anyways, that's all I've got for dopamine menus. But I did want to talk about Spotify Wrapped. I'm not going to go through every single part of it because, I don't know, it was kind of chintzy this year. I use Apple Music for my actual music, but all of my podcast stuff is through Spotify, so I get like the creator Wrapped. And it's always just really cool to see. It's cool seeing viewer growth. It's cool seeing like, hey, your podcast has been listened to in 7 countries. I'm like, whoa. And like the range and age groups that listen, like it's just really cool. And I do just want to say thank you to everybody who listens and shares videos and likes them and responds to the Q&As and interacts with videos. Hey, FYI, if you're listening, download episode or like the episodes, download the episodes if you want. That's what really makes a difference on my end, is seeing how many downloads and how many full listens there are. So if you have the time, I think you can set your app to automatically download episodes of certain podcasts. I'm just putting it out there. But I just want to say thanks to everybody for this whole year. This year's been rough, to say the least. Like, mentally, it has been a weird year, but it's also been really rewarding. And I'm really excited for the growth that I made personally and professionally, creatively, the whole 9 this year. And I'm excited to use what we did this year as the building blocks for next year. So thank you so much to everybody who listened this whole year, and you guys are awesome. So thanks for that. Anyways, leave a like, a comment, a review, whatever else it is they let you guys do. It doesn't make a big difference for you guys, but it does make a huge difference for me. As always, if you want more day-to-day updates, go follow me on Instagram, EBFit for the gym page, Elevate with Emily podcast for the podcast, and Emily Brilliard for my personal. I say it every week and I'll continue to say it, but if you would rather watch your podcasts, we're on YouTube. Link will be in the show notes. And remember that your health, wellness, and fitness is a lifelong journey, and it's not going to be a one-stop destination. It's about making sustainable life changes. So take it one step at a time and be kind to yourself. And until next time, stay well and keep growing. We'll chat next week.